don't stop. Don't stop. Don't stop. Don't stop.
Fetal Circulation and Respiration. Chapter 114. Introduction. Fetal circulation is different from that of adults because of the presence of placenta. Since fetal lungs are non-functioning, placenta is responsible for exchange of gases between fetal blood and mother's blood. So, the blood from right ventricle is diverted to placenta. Development of heart is completed at 4th week of intrauterine life and it starts beating at the rate of 65 per minute. Along with heart, the blood vessels also develop. Heart rate gradually increases and reaches the maximum rate of about 140 beats per minute just before birth. Fetus is connected with the mother through placenta. Fetal blood passes to placenta through umbilical vessels and the maternal blood runs through uterine vessels. These two sets of blood vessels lie in close proximity in the placenta through which exchange of substances takes place between mother's blood and fetal blood. However, there is no direct admixture of maternal and fetal blood, Fig 114.1. Blood vessels in fetus. As fetal lungs are non-functioning, there is no necessity of large amount of blood to be pumped into lungs. Instead, the fetal heart pumps large quantity of blood into the placenta for exchange of substances. From placenta, the umbilical veins collect the blood, which has more oxygen and nutrients. Umbilical vein passes through liver. Some amount of blood is supplied to liver from umbilical vein. However, a large quantity of blood is diverted from umbilical vein into the inferior vena cava through ductus venosus. Liver receives blood from portal vein also. In liver, the oxygenated blood mixes slightly with deoxygenated blood and enters the right atrium via inferior vena cava. From right atrium, major portion of blood is diverted into left atrium via foramen ovale. Foramen ovale is an opening in intraatrial septum. Blood from upper part of the body enters the right atrium through superior vena cava. From right atrium, blood enters right ventricle. From here, blood is pumped into pulmonary artery. From pulmonary artery, blood enters the systemic aorta through ductus arteriosus. Only a small quantity of blood is supplied to fetal lungs. Blood from left ventricle is pumped into aorta. 50% of blood from aorta reaches the placenta through umbilical arteries. Fetal lungs. Pulmonary vascular resistance is the resistance offered to blood flow through pulmonary vascular bed. This resistance is very high in fetus because of the non-functioning of fetal lungs. The high resistance in fetal lungs increases the pressure in the blood vessels of lungs. Because of the high pressure, the blood is diverted from pulmonary artery into aorta via ductus arteriosus. Changes in circulation and respiration after birth, neonatal circulation and respiration. 1. First breath of the child. When fetus is delivered and umbilical cord is cut and tied, the lungs start functioning. When placental blood flow is cut off, there is sudden hypoxia and hypercapnia. Now, the respiratory center is strongly stimulated by these two factors and the respiration starts. Initially, there is gasping, which is followed by normal respiration. 2. Flow of blood to lungs. Lungs expand during the first breath of the infant. Expansion of lungs causes immediate reduction in the pulmonary vascular resistance and a sudden fall in pressure in the blood vessels of lungs. Therefore, the blood flow from pulmonary artery to lungs increases. 3. Closure of foramen ovale. When blood starts flowing through the pulmonary circulation, the oxygenated blood from the lungs returns to left atrium. It causes increase in the left atrial pressure. Simultaneously, due to stoppage of blood from placenta, pressure in inferior vena cava is decreased. It leads to fall in right atrial pressure. Thus, the pressure in right atrium is less and the pressure in left atrium is already high. This causes the closure of foramen ovale. Within few days after birth, the foramen ovale closes completely and fuses with the atrial wall. 4. Reversal of blood flow in ductus arteriosus. In fetus, since pulmonary arterial pressure is very high, the blood passes from pulmonary artery into aorta via ductus arteriosus. However, in neonatal life, since the systemic arterial pressure is more than pulmonary arterial pressure, the blood passes in opposite direction in ductus arteriosus, i.e. from systemic aorta into pulmonary aorta, Fig. 114.2. The reversed flow in ductus arteriosus is heard as continuous murmur in infants. 5. Closure of ductus venosus. Due to the contraction of smooth muscle near junction between umbilical vein and ductus venosus, the constriction and closure of ductus venosus occurs. Later, the ductus venosus becomes fibrous band. 6. Closure of ductus arteriosus. Ductus arteriosus starts closing due to narrowing. It closes completely after 2 days and the adult type of circulation starts. In some rare cases, the ductus arteriosus does not close. It remains intact, producing a continuous murmur. This condition with intact ductus arteriosus is known as patent ductus arteriosus, refer to chapter 106.